Hello everyone and welcome back to the Angels franchise. It is time for another offseason and for the blow up to continue. I think the blow up for the most part is done. A couple other guys we could trade away, like a Willie Castro, for example. He's on contract for a while though, so if we feel like we want to continue to use him as a bridge player, we can. Could also trade away Soriano, who I think is just playing worse and worse as the years go on. But otherwise, we've got the roster we've got. Detroit did just win the World Series, and now we are ready for the offseason. And here are the retirements. I don't see an Angel at the top, so it does not look like Trout retired, and he did not. So here are the actual retirements. So far, I'm not seeing any gigantic names. Austin Gomber, known Rocky. Yeah, nothing crazy. Andrew Heaney retiring, Nick Martinez. No big names retiring just yet, though. So here are the free agents. I think Terrens can go, depending on what he wants. Yeah, he wants $6.5 million a year to be a backup. Absolutely not. You can go start somewhere else, probably. To be honest, I think I might just let all of these guys walk. Victor Gonzalez is the one that I'm probably the most interested in getting a deal done for, but he wants $5.3 million a year. I'm happy to let Brogdon walk because that frees up the spot for Jason Emerson to become a reliever at the majors. And I think Emerson is just better than Brogdon at this point anyway. Gonzalez, though, is a lefty, and obviously lefties are very valuable. He's regressing a bit, but he's still very solid. Great hit per nine. The velocity is there, and his home run per nine shot up this season. I just don't really want to pay him $5.3 million per year. I think in all likelihood we can find somebody else. So I'm not going to be offering any contracts here. We might come back to Gonzalez in actual free agency if there's not much else available, but for now we're going to let him go and just kind of test the market. Sam Hilliard, of course, regressing like crazy. He can go, and Rendon has started to see regression as well. Gave him a small contract last season just because I was concerned about injuries. Now, I don't think we need him anymore. We do need a new first base coach and a new farm director. So I've made a couple offers to a couple of coaches, and now we can continue. Juan Hernandez has become the new farm director, and we are still waiting on Stephen Vogt, actually, to become the first base coach. Vogt has accepted the Reds offer, so we will have to find somebody else. It is now the first day of free agency, and we can see who is available. I don't know why it's giving me a tutorial. Am I really that bad? Kinda, yeah. What I'm really looking for in free agency is somebody who I feel like kind of fits the window, and that's just typically not going to be what you're going to find in free agency. Most of these guys are 30, coming off of their first big contract and ready to continue their careers. Like the youngest guy I found is 27-year-old Luis Garcia. So there's not anything I'm like overly interested in up here. We do have a lot of money. So like if we wanted to make a splash on one of these players, we could. And of course we can always turn around and deal them elsewhere, like we did with Pete Alonso. The guy I actually find the most interesting is McKenzie Gore. He's 29, so he fits the window a little bit more nicely, and he's an 82 overall lefty. If we were to add him and then trade Soriano, it could work pretty nicely for a rotation for about the next 5 years. And shout out to any team that needs a catcher with Contreras and Rutschman available. Cal Raleigh is also available. Man, this is a great free agency to need a catcher. The Cy Young winner is available. Logan Gilbert, he's 30. He wants $33 million a year, and that's just not in our window. If this was like 2 years in the future, then I would probably go all in on a guy like Logan Gilbert. But for that price point to likely just be a terrible team again next season, probably not. They are also losing Luis Castillo. Man, the Mariners bullpen getting worse. Not bullpen, starting rotation. I'm also looking at first baseman because it is a position of need, and there is just not much here. Best player available is 36-year-old Christian Walker. So I think we just have to stick with Hunter Goodman and Ryan Noda most likely. So for now, I'm just going to go all in on McKenzie Gore. The other thing we mainly need are relievers. I need probably one righty and one lefty reliever, but those are going to be available later anyway. So let's just go all in on McKenzie Gore. I've got his motivations maxed out with the team needs and positional needs. So hopefully he's interested. We'll advance for that week and find out if that is indeed the case. So I'm going through these contract renewables, and they've got to find a way to make this less tedious. And if you guys know a way to make it less tedious, let me know. But holy cow, it's just this over and over again. You're just spamming. Like, there should be an option to like select all, and then I can unselect the guys that I don't want to give a contract to. And maybe it shows here what they would be asking for their contract. Like, for example, Nico and Davy Garcia are not getting contracts from me because they're not good enough and they want an 800K contract because they have MLB time. Whereas the rest of these guys only want like 60K, and I mostly just want them on the team to fill out the roster. And I'm willing to give them 60K despite, you know, some of these guys having deep potential and being genuinely terrible. But there has to be a better way to do this in the future. San Diego studio, I'm looking at you. So the only players I didn't renew are these three because they're just not MLB caliber players and they want MLB type money. Davy Garcia was part of a trade. I was hoping he would improve faster than he did. I think he was 24-25 when we traded for him. With that B potential, he is improving and he will probably continue to improve, but I'm just not paying him that type of money to basically just ride out at AAA. And Mark Church, holy cow, deep potential, 57 overall. He wants 840K. And now I'll go through everyone and offer salary arbitration if I want to. Kerstad, I was considering actually offering him a contract, but he wants about 10 mil a year. So the only guy I didn't offer arbitration to here was Scott Kingery. He's 33. He's regressing. There's just no point. We are officially to the point where a couple of our top prospects, or at least guys I consider to be some of our top prospects, are Rule 5 eligible. The big ones, I think, being Honeycutt and Moore. They both need to be added to the 40-man this year, which I was kind of expecting. I wish I could wait one more year on Christian Moore to add him to the 40-man, but I do actually think that these two would be likely to be stolen if we didn't add them to the 40-man. The other one is Cutter Coffee. He's a 68, he's C potential, he's 23. He had a pretty good year in the minors, but I don't necessarily want him on the 40-man either. And I'm okay with losing him also just because we have Eric J. Eric J, younger, already better than Coffee. Obviously the future at third base, at least that's my plan. So I'm gonna leave Coffee alone. If he gets stolen, he gets stolen. It's not gonna break my heart. Other guys that are Rule 5 eligible that I'm leaving alone, Adam Kloffenstein, he's 27 now, and I know the B potential is nice and he is getting better, but I also just wouldn't be totally heartbroken if he does get stolen away from us. I'm not considering starting him next season, and especially with that low stamina, I just don't mind if he gets taken away at this point. And then there's Mason Erla as well. He's a 71, but he's 30, so somebody can take him if they need a starter. So now we start doing some simulating, and we do get our first base coach. Fantastic. Looks like the Mariners are trying to add Alex Bregman, and we just don't need him. So McKenzie Gore is very interested in coming to play for the Angels. I like him as a pickup a lot. I think 4 years also makes a ton of sense. He'll be 33, 34 years old by that time. You know, he's not going to start regressing yet at only 29. He's not really like a pure ace, and he's a little bit younger. Plus, he is a lefty. So we're going to immediately offer McKenzie a good contract here. I'm happy with 4 years. I'll up the per year slightly. I'll go up to just, well, I want to do a flat 19, but I'll go to 19.14, make it a 67% chance. Hopefully we're the first team to give him a competitive offer, and that means that we should get a boost. So we will stamp and send that. We are not apparently the first team to give him a competitive offer. The Mets sign Yohan Duran. Time for the contract decision from McKenzie Gore. We've caught his attention, but we haven't convinced him to sign yet. So he declines the 4-year, $19 million contract. Felix Bautista is heading to Minnesota. Up to 74% motivation on Gore. You know, I don't mind having him for 5 years even. That ups the current motivation to 75. I could keep it at 18.4, but go another year. That would push him to his age 34 season guaranteed, which is fine. That's about when players start to regress. And then we've just got a solid top of the rotation guy during basically the whole of this rebuild. So we're going to send him this contract. I think I've also found the reliever I want in the lefty Caleb Ferguson. There's a ton of righties available, and there may even be some trades I can make to get another righty reliever. So for now, I'm just looking for a lefty, and that is Caleb Ferguson at the moment. Adley Rutschman back to the Orioles, so he is not going anywhere. And now we're being offered a trade by the Brewers. You want to give me Christian Yelich for 2 of my best prospects? Maybe this was 2018. McKenzie Gore making his decision. Welcome to the Angels, McKenzie Gore. I think that's a pretty big signing for us. Pablo Lopez to the Brewers, and the Guardians acquire Justin Steele, $31.2 million a year. Caleb Ferguson has some interest in joining the Angels. It's at 46%. And with the signing of McKenzie Gore, we are now going to be trading Jose Soriano. And in return, we are getting Yusniel Espinosa, a shortstop from the Red Sox, drafted just this past year. They will also be getting a relief pitcher prospect in Josh Callahan. See potential, and he's only 24, so could still grow into a pretty reasonable relief arm. And that trade has been accepted. So with McKenzie Gore joining the team, that means Gore, Bayo, Detmers, and Dana are pretty much the for sure top 4 starters. And then I think it's going to be a battle between Klassen and Williams for that 5th spot. Logan Gilbert is headed to the Mets. So now they have Skubal and Gilbert at the top of that rotation. That is disgusting. $41.1 million per year for 7 years. His initial asking price was 33. So we're getting Caleb Ferguson more and more interested. He wants about the same money as Gonzalez did. I'd prefer to give him 2 years, and I'll go up to 5.5 per year. And we will send him that contract. And apparently we are not the first team to send him a contract once again. We are also adding another reliever, this time a righty in Camilo Duvall. And if him and Ferguson both sign, then our bullpen is pretty much set. Caleb Ferguson contract decision, and he declines. William Contreras signs with the Phillies, and Will Vest is heading to the Mariners. So they make up for some of their lost pitching by getting a newer arm. Duvall is very interested in signing immediately, and I don't feel like he's asking for an unreasonable amount. With the fact that we are seeing a little bit of regression from him, and he's coming off of a not so great few seasons, I'm only going to give him the 1 year, sort of like a prove it deal. I'm willing to sign him longer if he, has a stronger year next season, but we will send him that offer. And Ferguson didn't like our initial deal, but I'm going to try basically the exact same thing again. 2 years, 5.5. I'll bump it up 1 just to get to a 68. So it'll be 5.57. We'll stamp and send that deal away, and hopefully these two sign this time. The only other thing I'm really considering adding is maybe like a depth outfielder. We've got Valera, of course, but if Valera were to go down with some type of injury, the next guy up is DeLauder, and we've seen how things go with DeLauder. He just continues to play poorly. It's actually a somewhat big name here in Luis Robert Jr., but him being 30 years old, I don't want to add him to this core of players. I want to keep us pretty young. To be honest, I think we're okay. I think that we've got guys like Nelson Rada that are probably about ready to start platooning anyway. And now it is time for the draft lottery. Currently, we have the 9th overall pick, a 2.7% chance for the number 1 overall pick. Maybe we'll pull a Dallas Mavericks. We'll jump all the way to number 1. It's unlikely, but here we go. Oh my goodness gracious. We actually jumped 7 spots to number 2. That is huge for the upcoming rebuild. We can now get the 2nd best player available and maybe add like a truly generational talent to this young core, to this rebuild. That is huge for this Angels team. The Rangers, a division rival, also jump up by 8, but the Astros, everyone's least favorite team, unless you're an Astros fan, drop by 4. I did not expect to jump up at all. I was mostly joking around when I said pull a Dallas Mavericks, but we almost did it. Almost jumped all the way to 1st, 2nd overall next season. That is huge. Shane McClanahan has signed with the Twins, so they're going pretty heavy in free agency this year. They were the 1 seed, but failed to make the World Series. They're trying to make sure they make it next time. Doval is calling us back, and he says no for now. I mean, to be honest, man, with how bad your numbers are these past couple of years, you might have just saved me. Maybe I just won't sign you. And Ferguson is making a contract decision. He has accepted. So there's another lefty arm, a little bit better than Gonzalez to add to the bullpen. And now it is time for the Rule 5 draft. I'm not certain if we will be adding anything here. Maybe there's a righty reliever and I don't have to get Doval. So remember that whoever we take here does have to stay with the major league team the entire year, or they end up going back to their old team if they're claimed by their old team. So if we wanted a reliever, it would have to be, like a Michael Kopech, somebody who is capable of playing at the majors. And I just don't love any reliever here. The guy I think I'm most interested in is actually Max Meyer. He's a 28-year-old, 79 overall righty pitcher coming off of some bad season, it looks like, with the Marlins. Man, if these numbers weren't so horrible, I'd be even more tempted. Part of the reason I don't just pull the trigger on him immediately is just that I want some of our younger guys to get a chance. like Dave Williams, like Caden Dana. Signing him removes that chance from one of those players. So looking through it, I think that I'm just passing on everyone. I looked through first baseman, see if there was, maybe someone with like B potential, not named Joey Gallo, but there's really just nothing here, unfortunately. So we will pass and skip our selection and simulate the rest of the way through. So we have Dennis Santana's agent giving us a call. He actually only wants about $1 million more per year than Doval and might be a little bit better. And his numbers aren't horrendous in his last few seasons. In fact, they're pretty decent. So I actually like this. I'd be willing to offer him just straight up that contract. Santana is making his decision. That is crazy. You reach out to us. I'm like, okay, yeah, I will offer you a contract. And then you decline. I'm sending him basically the same one again. I gave him about 60,000 more, but not very much more. And he's making his decision again, and he has signed this time. So there's your bullpen, pretty much set in stone. There is a first baseman here I might actually be willing to give a chance to, for a similar reason that I gave a chance to Hunter Goodman. That's Tyler Soderstrom. He's only 26. His hitting numbers are not horrible. He's asking for a decent chunk of change, considering that you're basically just guaranteed to play at AAA. Like, you want $2.5 million a year? I tried to do 1 year for the 1.7, which I still think is an overpay that he is asking for. And he says to add a few years. Buddy, you're terrible. We're like giving you a chance where nobody else will, because we're that desperate for a first baseman. And I don't even really need to do this because I have 2 other guys that are, your age or younger. He's just straight up like a free agent. So I can't even add him to like my list and get him to be more interested. I guess that's not how it works for these guys that are not ranked. So like, I can't just add him to my board and make him more interested and then, kind of negotiate that way. It's just the regular free agency offer a contract. And if they're interested, they'll sign, but he refuses to sign unless it's multiple years, which like, I guess I would do 2 years and I would do $2 million a year. See, and he still won't take that. I mean, how much is Hunter Goodman making? Because he is in such a similar boat to Hunter Goodman. Goodman is 2 years older. He is 5 overall better with similar potential. And Goodman is making $2.4 million for the coming year. The thing is, I do have the money. It's not like I need to be stingy. It's just, I think it's crazy that he wants as much as he does. So I'll give him a 2-year prove it deal, essentially, for $2.2 million a year. Will you accept that? He thinks he's worth more. Fantastic that you think that. Now I'm offering him the same amount of money that Hunter Goodman is making, and he is still saying no. Okay, he has finally accepted. Like I said, I have the money. I don't mind taking kind of a shot in the dark on him. Who knows? Maybe that ends up working out. His actual potential is 84, so it is better than Goodman's. And honestly, I think that's about it for us. Now we just have to wait for arbitration hearings, but we are done with free agency. Jordan Hicks signs with the Twins. Man, that's a lot of signings for the Twins this offseason. And now we are officially to spring training. So honestly, a quiet offseason for your Angels, adding a younger guy like McKenzie Gore, a little bit younger at least than the guys who were otherwise available, trading away Soriano to open up a spot for Reed Detmers, and I would like Dave Williams to be added to the 40-man and to get his chance at the MLB level during the spring. So it is a battle between Dave and George Klassen to see who gets that 5th spot. The reason you don't see McKenzie Gore in here, we already know he's the top guy. He doesn't really need to get as many chances to pitch here. Another guy we'll give a chance to, Nicholas Diamond. He'll play a lot during the spring. And otherwise, we'll just see how things go. Obviously, this lineup for the Angels is one that isn't really intended to compete this year, but maybe as soon as next season. Oh, and do not let me forget, Aaron Whalen is on the 40-man, and he is projecting to be a day 1 starter. He's really going to have to perform poorly. Somebody's really going to have to beat him out in order for him to not make the team with these ratings. But anyway, that is going to do it for this episode. It was probably a little bit shorter of an off season than usual, but that just means we get to get into season number 4 even quicker. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to the channel members for the continued support. If you find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that sub button for me. It does help me out a lot. I'll see you guys in the next episode where year number 4 will kick off.